as fuck. You didn't even set up yet.
Trent's wildin'. He's thirsting like crazy. I'm joking.
That fucking thing didn't set up for me yet.
It's all good, man.
You
Just
press the button and it doesn't go. What the hell?
All right. Well, you want me to stop this recording and then wait for you to get your shit rolling? All right. Well, it's all good then. I'll just keep recording. And then obviously, like when we start the video, we'll just cut it to the point where we're not doing all this banter or whatever.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my screen recorder to open up here. I thought it was open.
It's all good, man.
I hit F7. It's like, why isn't this recording? Oh, you got yourself one, eh?
Yeah, bro. I was like, I figured I might as well invest because there's like I'm falling back just a little bit from like the flower. I'm trying to do these ones for a little bit because they be lasting me mad long.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like I was saying, like remember how I was saying like this is the one with the 1 gram. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like it has like almost like a glass thing at the top. I'm almost done this one, but
oh wow,
yeah, man. Like the fact that there's a gram in there though, like that should be.
That's the one I have. Like compare the difference of it, just like the size wise. Like that's crazy. Yeah, that's like a half gram, I think.
Yeah, it's like I hope you can get a kind of clear visual, but yeah, man, it's
I can see it. Yeah.
It's like yeah, you just inhale. There's no button or nothing like that. Charger
yeah, same with mine. That's the best part about it.
Okay, good. But yeah, man. I mean, fuck it. Hey, bro, I know you might be waiting on your screen recorder, but yo, fuck it, bro. We back. It's another episode. Ultra Fly Talk. My boy Trent's just doing his thing. You know how it go. Yeah, man. We just had like a different like perspective we wanted to try to approach. You know what I mean, and just explore a different topic today, where we're just talking about like. More or less, or Trent, maybe you might want to introduce it. Maybe
I will.
You might want to introduce it.
But there's one thing I want to ask before we get started on this. What do you think about this whole sea shanty trend?
Sea shanty? You say sea shanty? I'm not even. You might have to inform me. What is this?
maybe you're not as into it. Like everyone's into like listen to the old like sailor songs from back in the day, like the sing-alongs and whatnot.
Okay.
It was big on TikTok, and then all of a sudden it blew up like everywhere else. So it was just like, all right, cool. Everyone else is starting to get into it for like, I grew up with this stuff, right? It's all part of like that culture that I came from, right? Like the Drunken Sailor. That was the song I've known since I was a kid, basically. Just like, it's just sing-along songs like that. I just wondered if you wanted, I just wanted to know what your take on it was.
No, man, I haven't really, as far as seeing like the recent new craze or new fame within like having like those songs, like especially like as you may know, when it's something blows up on social media, unfortunately, not even unfortunately, because it could be a good thing, but it's gonna blow up in the rest of the world because parents, everybody's gonna start adding on to it. That's the thing that gets me. But as far as these sea shanty songs or whatever, I'm not even too familiar, man, like as far as just that culture in general. But it's good, I guess. It's good as far as bringing light to that culture. No,
I'll send you some stuff after this. Like there's some, it's just like a cappella songs, right? There's not like, it's meant to have like, the way I've come to like learn about it was like, it was all like working songs, and like when they're like sing, like they all like groups working together like to get the same thing done, then they sing the same song to keep in unison, sort of thing. That's where that whole idea comes from anyways. But on another topic, the actual topic today, it was something I literally just posed to you after I was just sitting around thinking about it. It was like, why be humble? Like that question of like humility, like, is that really like, why do we do that sort of thing? Like I'm just trying to think about that. And just coming to like learn more about it is really the only thing I've come to see here. Like everything on my points and all this stuff I got here, everything comes back to like a religious aspect to it. Like every major religion has like humility as one of their virtues, and that basically, and not just like, oh, it's just a religious point of this, but that generally means that translates to every other culture as well too. Like it's a virtue in every culture, and I'm just, why do we do this? It's just something I've just been wondering. It's nothing like nothing bad, just like questioning things, like
No,
I always do.
For sure. And you have the ability to question whether it's not even question, but just explore and just try to find out the basis, the roots of why something is what it is.
Exactly.
And I mean, of course, we can explore it, like, and I would agree in the sense of there being religious ties to it. But then when I think about it, like, because before we even developed social structures, it was a matter of like people being in the most animalistic / primitive form that they were in, as far as you're not going to have said morals, said values and things of that nature until these things are brought in from some external force, aka whether it's someone who might have adopted the first religious text, someone who may have adopted the first spiritual text, like as far as things being passed along from generation to generation, as far as it's starting somewhere and then us having it today. I feel like the fact that we didn't even think about these things, we just thought about the prime, like our primal instincts were the only thing that mattered, as far as like, okay, we got to go kill, we got to protect, we got to eat, blah, 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 blah. To come to a point of now we have to have moral standards and different types of things to cause us to be humble, or cause us to be decent, or cause us to be like meek. Like I find there's such a weird disconnection where people will say, Trent, be humble. You have just accumulated X amount of money, but be humble. Whereas there are people who may be less fortunate and it might not be preached to them to be humble. They might just have to get it how they get it. There's no kind of humility within it. It's just a matter of survival. That's why I'm saying, like, how it's crazy, because in certain constructs in society, whether you want to call people like less fortunate, etc., there's a survival instinct causing them not to be humble. They might not even be thinking about those types of things. Not saying people in a lower like people who have a lower structure or lower base of where they're coming from in life don't have the capability of being humble or capability of being decent. I'm just saying some people aren't even on that wavelength, Trent, because they don't even have to, it doesn't have to be incorporated in their day-to-day. Whereas someone like me or you, let's just say, for example, if we come up on some good fortune, we're then told to be humble. So you questioning or asking, why even be humble, or what's the purpose of that? That's some crazy shit. And in my opinion, I think the purpose is to keep people in line, keep people in check, but also, granted, if you're coming from a religious or spiritual background, it is genuinely for you to be a better person. Granted, you believe in people being better people, if that makes sense. No, humility, yeah.
Makes complete sense. It's funny because you touched on a few points I had here, like just off these religious points I've had here. Literally just spoke to from the Bible here. He who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbled himself will be exalted.
Okay, for example, yeah.
So it's just that interesting idea, because I always felt like if I take things for granted, or even if I don't take things for granted, something bad's gonna happen. You know what I mean? That kind of like weird paranoia I have about things like that. But like that's also something I've come to realize recently, sort of thing. But like, I don't know. It just feels like if I don't humble myself, there's gonna be some repercussions from it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and I think that's been embedded in the majority of us, Trent, especially the people who do adopt I won't even say just religious background. I'll say more spiritual, in the context of believing that there's something higher than self. Most people do have a sense of, let me do what's right instead of what's easy. Because I feel like if I'm being humble, if I'm being a peaceful person, etc., basically I'm giving out the energy I want to reciprocate. So it's almost like there will be that weird fear / paranoia of but like, let's just say, because if I have a firm belief in God, for example, if I'm saying, I don't want God to see me acting a fool and doing this unnecessary stuff, let me humble myself and make sure that I don't necessarily, for lack of a better term, shit on people. Like, let me make sure that I'm out here being the best I could be, but being humble at the same time, and just staying almost like staying in a submissive state as far as head bow down, yes sir, no sir, XYZ. It's like you're just, it's like you're being like subservient or just more submissive. And it definitely, in my opinion, it might stem from a sense of wanting to appear to be more pious or more pure than another. Oh, I'm humble, I'm not arrogant, I don't do those things.
But that's a type of arrogance in and of itself.
That's what the contradictory / hypocritical type of, you know what I mean? So that's why it's so not strange, but like I can see why things are adopted. But I'm saying that's why when you ask like, why be humble, or even try to explore like the origins, my only like opinions would be like, yeah, trying to think like it has to be from a sense of, if one has the power to instill these things into social constructs, you're going to then have many people adopt this mentality and stay with it, and then preach it to generations, not even use the word preach, but just teach it to generations below them. Hey, be humble. You know what I mean? Because or somebody will humble you. In other words, from that verse you just read from the Bible, it's just kind of another version of that. Like, he who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who is humble will be exalted, right?
Pretty much. But that also touches on something else here from the Judaism. Thank you.
I don't know why. I promise you, them words be tricky. They're tricky, man. They're tricky.
But yeah, it's something you said there. But like effacing a self to one for a higher purpose. Like there's more than just like this. What we have here, for like someone like me. Like there's more than just myself here. There's like other people, like who have less than me and that need to be on the same level as me, and there's people who have more than me that be, you know what I mean? Like that 100%. That whole, it's also a lot of what I've seen here from pretty much every like little point I've found has to do with perspective. Like someone having like the proper perspective basically is what it comes with. Humility is something that allows you to have that proper perspective. That's something Kant said. He said it relies on truth and rational thought as well as humility to help guide the person with a proper perspective. But that's just one way of looking at it, because other people can, you know, there's obviously we could argue that all day, especially if you had like you weren't humble or something like that.
Yeah. You just wanted to throw out a whole bunch of arrogant just proclamations and whatnot, and then somebody else is saying, Earl, like, just relax, be humble, in the sense, like, be humble and understand that you're in a fortunate position or whatever the case is, whereas the person who's getting all excited and being all arrogant is like, no, this has all been me, and it's all I'm the only one who's got myself to this position, no one helped me, blah blah blah. And then the reality is there's been all types of assistance in their life and whatnot, but they're just so arrogant they don't even really grasp the concept of humility. Some people, and that's like, it's wild to think that there are such like they're the two different sides of the spectrum, how they're so far apart from each other, yet at the same time so close. Because it's like, for you to believe that your way of thinking and being humble is the correct way, based on some type of moral or ethical system, I believe like the person who's also super duper arrogant and super confident and super like, I believe in myself to get jobs done, that person is kind of in the same right, because he's coming from a standpoint of, or he or she may be coming from a standpoint of, I need to make sure no matter what, I get what I need to get out of this world. Whereas the other person who's super humble is sitting there saying, be humble and allow gifts and different things to flow into your life. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's the two different sides of the spectrum, how they're different sides, but they're similar in the sense that like, you like they're putting themselves like first, opposed to the person who's really saying be humble is like, because you saying like, oh, I'm gonna be humble, I'm not going to do certain things, I don't display that behavior. It's as if you're trying to push yourself up higher on some type of pedestal, whereas you're saying I'm more pure or more like that right there is. And I don't get me wrong, being humble, you might not say it in an arrogant way, but if you express through your actions that you're more humble, like you're always walking into a room with your head down or whatever, opposed to walking into your room with your head high, with your chest out, just basically saying I'm confident, I believe in myself. Like, because then we can move into the real, obviously, definition of humble. But I'm saying then there's the perspectives slash what do you want to call them, perspective slash basically the way people view things. You know what I mean? Like, because if I view Trent as a humble person, like, oh man, he's always humble, man, always very polite, saying thank you, this, that, and the third. He always lets people go in front of him. I can view you as humble, but at the same time, you can just maybe feel like you're on a lower level than other people, as far as you are polite, but you're not doing it for a humble reason. You're doing it because you might not have the self-confidence or whatever the case is. So it just sucks that, yes, there's the true definition of one being humble, but there's also the perception that muddies the waters, in my opinion.
Subjective perspective was what you were thinking of there, just from what other people think about you. But everything I've read when it comes to this, self-deprecation and like pushing your, like thinking down, like pushing yourself down is not part of humility. That's part of something like, it's not, it's more of a, like a sycophantic behavior, like just being like subservient to someone else, or fake subservient to somebody else, like a charmer, you know what I mean? Like a hanger-on type of thing, like that type of thing. It was fun. And the other thing you mentioned there a bit before, like self-determination, I want to get what I want out of this world, and the other person not. I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. I think they're actually what could be one and the same, because the humble person can get what they want, but they know enough. I have enough for me and for what I need. I think that is the difference there. It's just the knowing when enough is enough with that.
But Trent, but on the flip side, of course, I would ask, how would one know enough is enough? Of course, one could set like, hey man, I got a price. If I make 100,000 in life, that's it. I'm not gonna make any more. But on the flip side of that, granted you're humble and you have a belief system where you believe something, this is bigger than me. You may get fortunate or blessed in that regard, or favored in that regard, to receive more. And though you might say, well, I set a number, I'm trying to be humble, but then you surpass that number greatly, you should, like, one who's humble may feel bad, like that, man, like I set a price for myself and I've gone way past this price and this, that, and the third, when there are people, and then that may lead into them doing more philanthropy work and different things like that. But if you then keep your humble mentality, but you don't extend your philanthropy work, you just still keep doing the same, that's not, like, you still aren't, you're humble, but that doesn't, it sucks, because like you still have that bit of I don't want to say it's arrogance or something like that, but at the same time it's like that bit of like you have like almost like a high self-worth, you know what I mean? Like you feel like you're like, I'll use me for an example. If I'm starting to make more money and this, that, and the third, right? I express to multiple people who I love that I don't even give a damn about money, but I keep being blessed in the sense of being fortunate to maybe reach new areas or reach new checkpoints that I'm trying to reach. I'm not trying to say it from a standpoint of arrogance. I'm trying to say it from a standpoint of I'm trying to be humble and make sure that I'm doing my part, so to speak, for the level I'm at. But I don't exactly know the part I'm supposed to be playing, unless like basically I'm trying to navigate to find, like, within my quote unquote humble self, I'm trying to navigate, Trent, to find where's the right balance between keeping myself humble, as far as keeping myself below a certain point money wise, and understanding I could still be humble but achieve basically you can still gain far more than you can spend and still be humble, is what I'm trying to say. But it sucks because the humble person may have that internal battle where they're not feeling like they're humble, or they're still that same decent person, because they're like in this world where we have capitalism, they keep gaining and gaining, so they feel like they're losing their humbleness. And I'm saying, like, that's another aspect to the whole humility, because sometimes you don't know if you've reached that point of humility, though we might keep striving to be it. You know what I'm saying? That internal struggle, like, I feel like, so that's why if someone ever says, Trent, you're a humble person, it's like, yes, I may have that quality, but I don't even know if I can pinpoint to be just that, like to be just a humble person, because you might struggle with it every day, Trent. And then it's like, well, how do we then define it? Because words on a paper to define the term humility is not the same as the actual acts. Do you know what I mean?
It's like mental health. You got to work at it every day, sort of thing. There's no definition if we're like cured with it. It's just a thing every day.
Exactly.
But you actually stumbled upon something I had written down here.
Okay.
Not being conscious about being humble, like people bestowing that upon you. It was something Gandhi actually believed. And a humble person is not himself conscious of his own humility. So it's something we do, but we're like, we don't think about it like consciously like that. And also on the topic of like not be of like, once again, it all comes back to like not looking at like looking at humility in the sense of not self-deprecation. In the Judaism belief, its appreciation of one's talents, skills, and virtues is humility. Basically, like appreciating yourself as your own, like you have your own self-worth and all that. I don't think that doesn't have anything to do with humility. I think it definitely is one thing to be cocky and arrogant with your self-worth as opposed to other people's self-worth and valuing yourself over others. It's another thing to not like value yourself at all. But I think there's always a middle ground with that. And I think that's what we should always try, because balance, right? Life's about balance. Yeah. So it's all about finding those extremes and just kind of like, okay, this is where it should be, sort of thing. Like have some self-worth, but not so much self-worth that you devalue other people at the same time. And I think that's where the humility would come in, just being like, I'm no different than anybody else around here. I've just had, X, Y, and Z experiences to make me who I am, to have this perspective right now.
See that's beautiful right there, in the sense of understanding that commonality, understanding I'm no different than anyone else. Let me not try to quote unquote elevate myself above others. But it's just unfortunate the society we live in the context of not elevating myself above people. Think about it, quote unquote celebrities, quote unquote kings and queens. It's like there's these monarchs, like these things are still upon us, right? Prime ministers, presidents, etc., etc. We quote unquote exalt people and then expect them not to be humble, expect them to be humble. But it's almost like we're breeding, we're sometimes breeding the grounds for arrogance. Now, on the flip side of that, there are people who we lift up, who we champion, who are the people's champ, so to speak, as far as they do, they're humble in their actions, like you were saying, like they might not even be conscious, like the people who go out and the boxers who come from like the fighting boxers who come from a nice or a unfortunate neighborhood and then go back and build a boxing gym there to help provide opportunities for other people, stuff like that, where you're displaying different things. And it might not exactly correlate to being humble, but I think it does, in the sense of you understand, totally, like when they say, oh, I come from humble beginnings, they're like, they go back to their beginning and almost like replant their roots within the soil so that somebody else could be like lifted up or whatever the case is, build their self-worth where he or she once did. It's like, but it's such a strange, that's why like the whole being humble versus, I'm just using arrogance as the like opposition, because it's like that's kind of, in my opinion, what I think the opposition would be.
It's like the extreme opposite of it.
Yeah, like, but it's you put yourself in a situation, or not even you, people put you in a situation where, okay, I'm now quote unquote above other people because everyone else tells me I am / society shows me I am. But I'm expected to be humble. I'm expected to not have the self, like, not that I'm trying to say you're expected to not have the self-belief or self-worth, but it's like you're almost expected to be like for example, say you're sitting in a position and somebody hits you with a snarky remark and says, yeah, but we got you there, or yeah, but we're the ones who supported you to get you there. They're almost basically trying to humble you in that regard, though you may have already been humbled. So you're like, you are like a humble person, like you're the one who's, that's why they put you up there, because they see you're a decent person, you're a great person, blah, blah, blah. And then you still have people still trying to remind you, hey, make sure you're being humble. Now, I have a question to you of, do you think these reminders are necessary? Or do you think, like Gandhi said, the person should be allowed to not really be aware of his or her humble acts? They should be allowed to just, you know what I mean, do them as that regard. Do you believe that reminder should be there?
I think those reminders are from people who are like critics. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think the reminders should be internal, like from yourself. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it all relates back to the point you said of humble beginnings. For guys like you and me, it's all remembering where we came from and our past. Like, as shitty as it was in some regards, it made us who we are. So that's our reminder for us, basically. This is where we came from. This is where we could be. Let's not remember we were still still Trent from Owen Sound. You know what I mean? Like, you're still a small town kid who came from these places. I think that's my reminder, basically, and it's just a constant reminder for me. I think the reminders help. Like, it keeps you on the right track, especially if it's like you lose your way sort of thing. And like that's pretty much like every story you see like that. Those people who get sucked in by fame is they lose like touch of where they came from and all that. And even sometimes they remember where they came from, but they still lose track. It's a slippery thing like that. But still, it's remembering where you came from, basically, and like where you started from. That's what it is, basically. Like, it could have been a lot different for you if it hadn't have gone this way, sort of thing. And it's always something I think about still to this like day.
Yo, that's some of the realest shit, because it's like, I almost feel like, I mean, in modern society, I almost feel like that's like the source of humility. Remembering where one came from, understanding that you were like, I was some little kid from Hamilton, Canada. Like, I was some little kid from that knew everybody, that would go to each neighborhood and know the kids from each neighborhood, and you know what I mean? I'm 6, 7, 8 years old, 9 years old. I have my little bike. I'm traveling all, you know what I mean, like 30, 40 kilometers or whatever, as far as, you know what I mean? Like, it's weird, because it's like you go back to your childhood memories. Granted, you have like good memories or whatever, and you understand that, like, yo, like, I could not even been here. You know what I mean? Like, there's low,
exactly.
Like, there are low expectations for certain people who may have came from certain places that we came from, and it's unfortunate. But it's not about saying, oh, we're the runts of the litter and this, that, and the third. It's more about saying, on some Tupac shit, we're the roads that came through concrete. You know what I mean? Like, and that right there is also a thing of beauty, a thing of humility, a thing of understanding. Yes, I know I can't cross the boundary of being super arrogant, but I can be confident within my humility. Mm-hmm. We've been very fortunate, Trent, to get to our places and still even keep growing. Like, because we're not done yet. Like, we ain't
done yet.
We're still a nice work in progress. We're still moving towards the goals.
Nothing's over till we're underground.
And that's a fact. That is a fact. Like, every day when I wake up, like, I'm humbled in the sense of saying, hey, bro, like, I'm very thankful for another day. I'm very grateful for another day. Like, that right there is a humbling experience, understanding that You straight up couldn't. You could have went in your sleep. You know what I mean? But you were fortunate to get another day. Now, what you choose to do with that day, that's that balance you were talking about earlier. What you choose to do with the day, that's okay. Am I out here doing arrogant actions, or am I out here doing super humble actions? I'm trying to better people around me. That's like that. But that you expressing that where we came from within modern society, I definitely think that's one of the best reminders to be humble, or humbling reminders.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I don't know. It's just it makes me think though, Trent. Like, why be humble? It does make me think, like, because you have so. On the flip side of that, us coming from potentially lower income or lower fortunate backgrounds or whatever. For us to, not saying that's, but I'm saying like, for us to be able to get to a place of, oh man, I'm gonna take my time. I'm out here making a little bit of money. I'm out here making a little bit of moves. Blah blah blah. You almost have a reason to be confident, or not cocky, but to have that higher self-worth in understanding, hey man, I've been through some stuff. I've been through some shit, but I'm still standing. I'm still moving forward on some Rocky shit, on some Luke Cage shit. If you've seen Marvel Luke Cage,
yep,
bro, that shit is hardcore in the sense of like, there's one scene where my boy Pops gets killed in the barbershop, and bro, that shit hurt my soul, man, because he's grabbing onto Luke Cage and he's saying forward, always forward. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he perishes, and that shit, that's a reminder right there. But I'm just not to, you know what I mean? But not to go too far. But it's more just about saying, just us being humble. We have to have that perfect balance, like you were talking about, because man, there's some times where you get through something, Trent, and you have to understand you are a friggin' survivor, soldier, whatever, after you done got through it. That's not right there. That's not really a time of humility. That's a time where you feel triumphant. You know what I mean? You feel like you conquered shit. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, that's shit.
But once again, it's all about having the self-worth, but it's not about, it's as long as you don't devalue others with that self-worth, there's nothing wrong with having those triumphs from where you came from. Absolutely nothing. But like I said, as long as you don't devalue others' worth, like their worth or their self-worth or their accomplishments, anything, that's when it's fine. If you pick other people's accomplishments up and hold them up as like, hey, this is just as great as mine, that's even better. But like, just as long as you don't devalue someone else's self-worth, I think it's perfectly fine to have like your own self-worth, because you need it. You really do, especially like you said, if you've come so far and come over over such bullshit, like yeah, like why not have some self-worth and sense of a triumph in some regards? But like, once again, as long as you're not trampling on somebody else's self-worth.
Yeah, and that's actually an extremely important distinguishing factor, that not shitting on somebody else, not devaluing somebody else while trying to enjoy your accomplishments, trying to enjoy and move forward within your own journey.
Exactly.
Because as you know, comparison is the thief of joy. Forgive me, I don't remember whose quote that is.
I don't either.
But I seen it fairly recently. It might have been like Charlie Chaplin or something like that. I could be completely wrong on who the source is, but it could have been somebody like that, like an actor or something. But I'm just saying, in truth, comparison, like, as far as one like, oh, why be humble? Oh, I'm gonna be humble because I know what it's like to be shitted on, and I'm not gonna shit on nobody or whatever. Like your fuel is whatever you choose to fuel your fire or fuel your lifestyle. Obviously, that's most important. But especially if you have like a great source for that fuel. But what I was saying was, we've been I don't know. There's only like, in my opinion, there's only like a few ways to genuinely express humility where you know that it's genuine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because just using that example I just used, you've been shit on a lot, so you know you are never gonna shit on nobody while you progress. That right there, that's one of the things that caused, like, one of the causations for a lot of people's success. Like, success and it sucks because when you say success, immediately you think of, oh, this guy's talking about his accomplishments, blah, blah. But I mean success within your everyday life. You understanding, you might be seeing somebody getting berated or whatever by a woman getting berated by her boyfriend. Now you're not going to necessarily step into the situation, but you might fuck around and you ain't trying to snitch, so you tell a lady or this how sometimes I saw a comedian in the hood, he was saying this, Trent. He was like, I saw a girl arguing with her boyfriend or whatever, but because I didn't want it to pop off, I just walked past him and said, hey man, a lady back there says she called the police. Basically, that didn't happen, but basically he was saying that shit so that the dude would be like, oh shit, wait a minute, and kind of relax his ass instead of repeatedly like going off on his girlfriend. But I was laughing at the comedian because it's so true. Like sometimes we want to help people, but like kind of like anonymously, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But those kinds of acts, I mean, obviously somebody might be like, yo man, stay out of folks' business, but that's not the point I'm making. I'm making the assisting without trying to take credit type shit, like assisting somebody, propelling somebody else forward because you know how it's like for somebody to try to hold you back. Like those types of genuine things are something like that shit can be super humble, like super humbling.
There's a quote actually along the same line, and in the spirit of the quote, I'm not going to give the person credit for it. Okay. We could change the whole damn world if nobody took credit for it. Basically, like as long as like people were willing to go do these things without taking credit for doing these things, sort of thing. Like without fucking like, oh look at me helping a homeless person out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, filming the whole interaction, and it sucks because you should not be doing that. Like in the sense of, but don't get me wrong. At the same
time, there's such good heart. It's such good shit. Like to see it done. Like it's Trent, it's a weird thing like that.
No, and you're 100% right, because that's where I was moving to next. You're 100% right, but it's like there's almost like a right way of doing it. Meaning, if you like blur out the person's face and like, you know what I mean, like, or whatever the case is, like certain things that can cause him to still keep his quote unquote, his or her quote unquote dignity, talking to them a good amount of time before the cameras even started rolling. Mm-hmm. Like sitting down and genuinely having a conversation with them. Yeah. Bro, the other week I was I was taking a subway to work, seeing a beautiful young lady who I work with. Bro, we're walking from the subway to work or whatever, and she just, there's a homeless guy sitting at the bottom of the subway stairs. She gives the homeless guy some money, bro. I didn't know, and ain't nobody knew it was gonna happen while we were walking towards him. And I just let her know. I'm like, and I asked her why. Oh, how come you did that? Just because I wanted to know. And she's like, I was gonna spend that money on some bullshit, on some Starbucks or some, like, you know what I mean, coffee or some bullshit or whatever the case is. He obviously could use it a lot more. Beyond, it's not a judgment. It's more about saying, let me understand. I can do a little bit more. Let me humble myself and understand this person needs a little bit more assistance than I do right now. That little genuine source of why the action was done, I was like, yo, like that was very beautiful of you. Like I had to just give her a little love and just post a little post on Instagram to just express, hey, bruh, the more we humble ourselves and understand like we can assist somebody else, the further we're gonna go. And she didn't take no credit for, I mean, like I'm posted on Instagram or whatever and saying, hey, I appreciate what you did or whatever, but it's not even about that. It's about just expressing like, yo, the more people humble themselves or choose to be humble, I should say, the further people are going. I'm not saying you can't have, like you said, I'm not saying we can't have self-worth, confidence, stuff like that, but having a source, like having a humbling just spirit, a more decent, calm, whatever spirit, you can assist and we can propel this world so much further than we are right now.
Oh,
but I just wanted to bring up that example.
100%. That was great, man. That was a perfect example of what we've been talking about here. It's just paying it forward as in a shorthand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we pretty much got everything I have here.
Hey, bro, but that's what it is. That's what it is, man. That was actually super dope, and I'm glad you brought that topic to the forefront as far as asking a question. And like, to the people out there listening, just ask yourself the question, like, why be humble?
Questions.
You know what I mean? Like, please explore these. If ever we bring a topic and you guys are feeling it, please explore it in your own time. Like, just as far as seeing even within yourself, your own your own reasoning, your own sources, however you feel within your own experience. Analyze, because if you're being humble for the wrong reasons, you're being fueled by the wrong source, your vehicle may not go very far, unfortunately. But you being able to identify the proper fuels to put within your vehicle to help you get further in this life, in my opinion, I promise you, without the material gains, you're gonna be the most successful person in the world, because you have your own dignity and you chose to actually do it yourself. You chose to find these reasons. Find your reasons why. That shit is beautiful to me, and I hope you embark on that journey, man. Like, I'm glad that we are embarking on this journey, but I'm saying to the people listening, I hope you embark on that journey. You know,
one day, one step at a time. That's all it is.
Couldn't have said it better myself, good sir. Couldn't have said it better myself. But yo, I guess this has been another episode of Ultra Fly Talk, yo. I'm Graham.
Trent.
Yo, man, we've been rocking out, and this shit was dope. I appreciate you, Trent. I really do.
And I appreciate you, sir.
We out here moving. We out here moving. I really hope that the people listening, like this guy right here, he's trying to bring some real information to y'all. You know what I mean? So I hope you guys just fuck with it. You know what I mean? Just fuck with the. We trying to bring something to y'all. It's all love, yo. Trent, you already know what it is, man. I'm gonna holler at you in a minute. To y'all listening, it's all love. It's all love.
Oh, I got it. There we go.